Good evening, everybody. So let's begin by cultivating our motivation. And considering the amazing fortune we have in our life, just having food, clothing, shelter, and medicine, and therefore living comparatively comfortable lives, especially if we compare it to how many people on this planet are living. It's still amazing how much we find to complain about. Whatever we have to complain about, whatever we don't like, whatever we're resentful of, seems so real, so important, so necessary to feel the injustice and make the world know about it. And yet when we compare our fortune in this life to that of others, the things we complain about become really rather minuscule. And it seems to be even embarrassing, the fact that we complain about these things. It's as if we have the luxury to complain about small things. So let's hold this in mind and use it as a way to release our resentments, our complaints, and instead turn our mind with compassion to the situation of others, and have equal compassion no matter whether others are in physical and mental pain right now, or whether they have a fortunate rebirth right now, to see that all of that is basically in the unsatisfactory in nature. And they're all bound by afflictions and karma. And so let's energize our compassion for all these beings, no matter who they are, and bring forth our determination to become a fully enlightened Buddha for their benefit. So when they look at these things this way, it is rather amazing what we find to complain about, isn't it? Yeah. And yet when we don't put things in perspective, whatever it is that we complain about seems really, definitely worthy of complaint. Or whatever we resent, whatever we feel was unfair, it feels really prominent. And yet, when we think about what's going on in people's lives and the rest of the world, it really is as if we have the luxury to complain about these things. Isn't it? It's really a luxurious situation, considering, how other people are and the lack of safety they have in their lives, or the lack of safety and security they have in their lives. So it's good to remember that, to put our own situation in perspective, because otherwise we can get really caught up in our seemingly important, but basically pretty minuscule things. Yeah. But when we have compassion for everybody, it's important that the compassion not just be for people who are in great suffering. It's helpful for us, for example, to compare ourselves sometimes to people who are in great suffering so that we let go of our complaints. But when we generate compassion, let's not have compassion just for people who are in the overt physical or mental pain. Yeah? But even for people who have seemingly good lives, still the dukkha of change is very prominent. And still the fact of being under the control of afflictions and karma. Yeah, and how people feel like these independent entities that make their own decisions and yet are under the, afflictions and karma basically run the show. And at any time, any small thing could happen, and a situation that was, going to be fantastic suddenly turns bitter and sour with no warning and no preparation. And how does that happen? It's because we're under the influence of afflictions and karma. Yeah, and so to have compassion for ourselves and others whose lives are ruled, by afflictions and karma, even though we think that we're in control. Susan and I were talking in the car today about times in our life when we felt like we were, making decisions and considering all the circumstances and knowing what we were getting ourselves into and making good decisions. And then years later, looking back on the thing and seeing that we were completely out to lunch, that our mind was totally under the influence of afflictions. And we thought we were making wise, discernments and wise decisions, but the mind completely, pushed by attachment or pushed by anger, and we don't even see it until years later. And so how much even now do we think, oh, I'm really thinking about things, and yet attachment comes in and just, they say like a donkey with a ring in its nose, You just pull the ring and the donkey follows. And so how much are we like that, governed by our attachment or our anger or our grudges or whatever it is? So to really try and have some awareness of that and to think, what does it take to make a good decision? And am I sitting and really looking at the big picture? Or am I, again, just looking at things through the viewpoint of me, I, my, and mine? And what benefits me this lifetime? Okay, so there's a lot to consider here. And then, when we do, and we have some feeling for it in our own lives, then when you hear the teachings about sentient beings being under the control of afflictions and karma, that phrase jumps out at you, and it has some really important, significant meaning. Yeah? And if you're having a hard time with it and you need a gross example to start with, look at the turkeys. Yeah? Or look at the kitties. Yeah, but especially the turkeys, how attachment just runs the life. Attachment and fear. But attachment and fear are related, aren't they? Yeah? And running here and there for food, being, having to be with another turkey, all the male turkeys doing their thing to impress the female turkeys who are completely going, you guys are too much. Yeah, especially this time of year. I mean, it's pretty funny, isn't it? And, and how they peck at each other, especially the guys when they start fighting and wind their necks around each other and, all to get a what do you call a turkey hen? Peahen is for peacock. A hen? A turkey hen? Yeah? but, you know, all for that. And she's like, you know, I mean, you watch the girls out there and they're like, you guys about? Yeah. It's really, you know, but this is exactly like human beings in so many ways, isn't it? You know, jealousy and pride, and look at my feathers. You know, look at the big red thing that hangs out of my nose, or look at the big white thing that, you know, puffs up. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, they do it with feathers, we do it with cars and clothes and jewelry. Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah. And so just thinking about how sentient beings are under the control of afflictions and karma that way. You know, not really able to think about what they're doing. Okay, so speaking of thinking, we're going to try and think about the paths and stages. Yeah. So Venerable Tarpa had a few questions to start with, which I'll go through. Did any of you make diagrams about the, yeah? Okay, did it start to make sense to you how the paths and stages work if you make a diagram? Yeah? Yeah, if you have a diagram, it's really not that difficult. Yeah? When you read it, it sounds very confusing, but if you draw a picture, yeah, it's not so difficult. Okay, so her questions. Does the first bhumi start on the path of seeing when you reach the liberated path of the exalted wisdom of meditative equipoise? What's the answer to that? No. Why not? Yeah, does the path of seeing start with the liberated path? Does the first bhumi start with the liberated path?
No, because then you're heading to the next one.
No, it starts with the uninterrupted path of the first bhumi, doesn't it?
Of the path of seeing.
Huh?
Of the path of seeing.
Yeah, of the path of seeing.
From the path of preparation.
Okay.
I think I really don't get the uninterrupted path to the liberated path. That part makes sense to me, but then when you're on the liberated path, it seems like boing, you go into the next thing. Like, right?
No.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. So you understand that to have a liberated path in which you have abandoned the afflictions, before that you need an uninterrupted path in which you know, in which you counteract the afflictions, okay? When you arise after that liberated path, remember when we went through the path of seeing, are there only uninterrupted paths and liberated paths? No, what else is there? Yeah, there's meditative equipoise that are neither. There's subsequent attainments. What kind of subsequent attainments are there? Yeah, the methods, ones that are correlated with the method side, one correlated with the wisdom side. So after you come out of that liberated path, you know, before you're at a point where your meditation on emptiness is strong enough to eradicate another set of afflictions, you have to do a lot of other meditation, and you especially have to accumulate merit. So that's where all these other paths, you know, come in. So the meditative equipoise that is neither is when you're, you know, maybe meditating on, right before you go into another uninterrupted path. Yeah? Or all the other times when you're meditating on emptiness non-conceptually. Yeah? And then the subsequent attainment, then you have the method sides when you're practicing generosity and ethical conduct, and you know, you're going off to the Pure Lands to make offerings, you're manifesting bodies to sentient beings to teach them, you know, you're appearing as all sorts of things to help sentient beings. You know? And then all the times when you're meditating on things as being like illusion, you know, when you see things that you know, it's not meditative equipoise, but it's under that influence, so you know they appear truly existent but aren't. Yeah, so you're practicing that. So you know, you're actually spending most of your time not in either an uninterrupted path or a liberated path. Okay? Okay? You getting that? Yeah?
But in all of those meditations, you're now considered to be in the first boom.
Right. When you're on the path of seeing. After you've come out of the liberated path of the first bhumi, you are now, you know, all the other meditations you do until you have the uninterrupted path of the second bhumi, you are a first bhumi bodhisattva. Okay? Okay. It's like, okay, you know, your first day of school, you take a test. Yeah, you pass the test, so that's like uninterrupted path, liberated path. And then the rest of the year you spend in first grade. Yeah? So kind of like that. Yeah? Okay. Then the other question was, is the demarcation the same for the fundamental and Mahayana vehicle path of meditation? In other words, when you have abandoned all the acquired afflictions and are starting to abandon the innate afflictions. First of all, okay, are you abandoning the acquired afflictions all during the path of seeing?
No. They've been abandoned already on the path, liberated path.
Yeah, because you've already eliminated those when you're on the liberated path of the path of seeing. Okay? So you've eliminated those acquired afflictions. Remember, the liberated path is you've gotten rid of them. You've closed the door. Yeah? They say the uninterrupted path is you've kicked the thief out of the house, and the liberated path is you've locked the door so he can't come back in.
So they're gone
They're gone.
in the path of seeing.
Yeah.
I thought you were doing it
During
the path of
Yeah, but that's the path of seeing starts with the uninterrupted path and then the liberated path. So the uninterrupted path, they are not there, but they haven't been completely abandoned. The liberated path, they've been completely abandoned. You get up from your meditation session, you have breakfast, you offer your food. So what's that when you're offering your food at breakfast after you've attained the path of seeing?
Subsequent
Attainment on the method side, yes, the wisdom of subsequent attainment on the method side. Okay, then you sit down and you meditate on impermanence. What's that?
Wisdom.
Huh?
The wisdom aspect.
That's the wisdom aspect of the subsequent attainment. Yeah, you're meditating on impermanence. Okay, yeah. Then you go to the health department to find out the requirements for the kitchen. So what are you practicing then?
illusion, like illusion.
Yeah, you're practicing things like illusion. Yeah, and you're practicing bodhicitta towards all the people you are meeting, you know, slipping in little dharma tidbits and making karmic connections with them so that, you know, sometime when their minds are more fertile, you can teach them the dharma. So what's that?
Neither.
Huh?
Neither.
Neither what?
Neither.
That was the meditative equipoise thing, so this is a subsequent attainment.
Yeah, so it's still the subsequent attainment on method side. Yeah. Benefiting sentient beings. That's the method side. When you're thinking about things as like illusions, that's the wisdom side.
But in my notes, Venerable, I have got the first of the seventh are the impure grounds where afflictive obscurations are.
Have not been fully eliminated.
But we just said that on the first ground.
Those are
The acquired. Remember, there's two levels when we're talking about the afflictive obscurations. There's the acquired ones, there's the innate ones.
Okay, this is where I got confused.
Okay, the acquired ones are the ones we learn from wrong philosophies, okay, and wrong religious tenets. So any little thing hanging out there about there's a creator God, or there's a soul, or doubt you have about the path, or, you know, thinking maybe there's some cosmic substance that, you know, everything's created out of, all that's the acquired stuff, because you learn that, okay? Then the innate ones, that's the self-grasping that's been with us since beginningless time.
And these are both two types of afflictive obscuration.
Right.
I had all three of those being synonymous.
Yeah, no, there's the acquired afflictive obscurations, there's the innate, or no, the acquired afflictions, put it that way. The acquired afflictions, the innate afflictions. Within the category of afflictive obscurations, you have the acquired afflictions, you have the innate afflictions, you have the seeds of the innate afflictions, and you have the karma that causes rebirth. Okay?
And our text calls them artificial, not acquired.
Yeah, the
That's also
text,
confusing.
right. Yeah, sometimes they're called artificial or intellectual. I think acquired is, you know, you acquired, you learned them from somebody. Yeah, even, you know, if any kind of idea that things are inherently existent that's still lurking in there. You know, all that, those acquired ideas get eliminated at Path of Seeing. Why? Because you've seen emptiness directly. So once you've had your own direct experience, you're not going to have any of those wrong ideas anymore. Okay, because you've had your own direct experience of it.
So on the first Vuma, you're eliminating the acquired afflictions.
Right.
And on the second to the seventh, the innate
Yeah.
afflictions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the actual, yeah, but it's actually the lower, we'll get into it, but the eighth Bhumi has two uninterrupted paths. In the lower one, you are eliminating the final of the afflictive obscurations. Okay?
The innate ones.
Yeah. Okay. Then she asked if I would explain Jeffrey's chart.
We have it too, I realized, in our handout here.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, you have it?
Yeah, we have
Oh, gee, I don't have a copy of it. We have it in the handout? Okay.
It's,
Part 7, is that one?
no, part 5. I think it was called the new.
Where it says innate afflictions.
It's page 41. I don't think we've quite gotten there yet, but
No, well, these are charts that,
I think it's the same thing.
yeah, there it is. Yeah, page 41. Okay, so we talked about this before when we talked about the hearer's path. So these are all innate afflictions that are abandoned on the path of seeing.
Meditation.
Path meditation, sorry, okay? So there are 81 of them, yeah, and there's 9 for each realm. So one set of 9 for the desire realm. That's our realm where you're distracted by the objects of desire. Then another 9 for the first jhana, or the first meditative stabilization. He translates it as concentration here. Let's just say the first jhana. Another 9 for the second jhana, another 9, yeah? Okay, so you have 1 for the desire realm, 4 sets of 9 for the form realm, and then 4 sets of 9 for the formless realm. Okay, the desire realm, like I said, the desire realm includes us, so it includes hell beings, animals, pretas, human beings, the demigods, and then the worldly, the gods in the desire realm. There's desire realm gods, okay? Then to be the form realm, you know, the different meditative stabilizations or jhanas, you're born there by the power of having gained that level of concentration when you're a human being. Remember we were talking about that a few days ago? So according to what level of concentration you gain, then you create that immovable karma to be born in one of those four. Okay? Then you can still progress into limitless space, limitless consciousness, nothingness, and then peak of cyclic existence, which is also called neither discrimination nor non-discrimination. Okay? But those four are attained on the basis of the fourth concentration, and what you're doing is you're changing the object. With a limitless space, all you're seeing is limitless space. Yeah, then you say, oh, but well, there's limitless space, there's got to be limitless consciousness. So then you shift to the object of limitless consciousness. Yeah, then you take away the consciousness, and then you feel like there's nothingness. Yeah, then you take away even the ability to discriminate, and you have, it's just not completely taken away, but you have neither discrimination nor non-discrimination. Yeah, but, and in those, the form and form realms together are called the upper realms. When we're talking about the three, when we're talking in terms of levels of concentration, those two are called the upper realms. When we're talking about, sometimes we divide samsara into 6 realms. At that time, the upper realms are the human beings, the demigods, and the gods, but there the gods include the desire realm gods plus all these form and formless realm gods. Okay, so it's just different ways of cutting the pie. But if you're going to get out of samsara, you have to eliminate all the levels of afflictions that are associated with all these different realms. Because, for example, we have attachment in the desire realm. Give me this, these kinds of things. The attachment in the form and formless realms is completely different. Yeah? In the formless realm, there's no form objects. There's not that kind of attachment. But there's attachment to the existence of being born there. Yeah, there's attachment to those states of meditative equipoise or to those kind of rebirths. And when you're in the God realm, there's certain levels of other afflictions, but because you have such a concentrated mind, they're generally suppressed, although sometimes you seem to come out of your concentration, and then you might have afflictions, especially pride, Okay, so you have to eliminate all the afflictions associated with all those different realms.
But then that leads me to the question of, I thought with just access concentration, you can realize emptiness, but even on the Mahayana path, you can't get too far.
No, you can realize emptiness with access concentration, and you can attain liberation with access concentration.
Beginning of the 8th bhumi.
Yeah, but actually by that time, because you're doing all these other, you're meditating on the paramitas, you're going to develop all sorts of concentration way before the 8th bhumi. Okay, but in general, for like the fundamental vehicle, you can attain arhatship on the basis of access concentration. So when we're talking about that, these are realms of existence in which we could be born into where we have afflictions. It doesn't mean that we have to access all these concentrations and realize emptiness with them, because it's very difficult to realize emptiness with some of these, like especially the 4 in the formless realm, because you're so, adila, stuck in your, dreamless concentration, that you're not going to turn your mind to emptiness if you're a worldly being. Special bodhisattvas can use those concentrations to meditate on emptiness, but that's because of their skill in meditation. But, to be liberated from those realms, you don't have to realize emptiness with those levels of concentration. Okay?
So these, actually, when we look at this chart, we can think, really, as it says, the afflictions regarding that formless realm.
Right.
Not like you have to use that concentration.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the attachment to being born in there, the kind of pride that you have from there, the kind of miserliness you have there. Okay? Those kinds of things. Okay? Okay, so we got that chart. Then, did you want to look at the next chart, chart number 6? I mean, this we already went through, because that's the 8 levels of abiding, of approaching and abiding, okay? And the different levels of afflictions that you are, for the fundamental vehicle, yeah. Okay, then the chart on page 43 is really helpful for what we're going to be doing now, because today, you know, when I start reading, we're going to be talking about what's eliminated on the path of meditation. Okay, so does that solve your questions? Okay, okay. Does anybody else have questions from before that we?
That helped tonight, because I was very confused on these grounds with the afflictive versus acquired.
Okay. Okay, so we're on page 17. So when uninterrupted paths of a Mahayana path of meditation are divided, there are 2. Uninterrupted paths of the Mahayana path of meditation, which actually abandon the innate afflictive obscurations, yeah, and uninterrupted paths of the Mahayana path of meditation, which actually abandon the obstructions regarding the cognitive obscurations, or the obscurations of knowledge. Okay? So when you're on the path of seeing, we've gotten rid of the acquired afflictions. When you're on the path of meditation, when you're in the Bodhisattva vehicle, you're going to be getting rid of the afflictive obscurations plus the cognitive obscurations. Okay? So there's 2 sets of uninterrupted paths, those that are counteracting the afflictive obscurations, those that are counteracting the cognitive obscurations. And similarly, there's going to be 2 sets of liberated paths, those that have counteracted the afflictive obscurations and those that have counteracted the cognitive obscurations. Okay? When uninterrupted paths of the Mahayana path of meditation, which actually abandon the innate afflictive obscurations, are divided, there are 7. Okay? So what are those 7? You have the 6 cycles of innate conceptions of true existence. Okay? Now remember, we have 9 cycles together, and each cycle has 9 parts to it. That's how we got those 81. Okay? So the 6 cycles of innate conceptions of true existence, from the big to the big medium, the big, the medium big, the small big, the big medium, the medium, and the small medium. Okay, so those are 6. Yeah, and they are actually abandoned respectively by the 6 uninterrupted paths of meditation, from the 2nd ground to the 7th. Okay, so those 6 are abandoned by 2nd ground, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th ground. Okay, so that's how you get those 6 uninterrupted paths. And then the 3 of the small afflictions, the big small, medium small, and small, okay, set of innate conceptions of true existence. They're abandoned simultaneously by one moment of the uninterrupted path of the lower part of the 8th ground. Okay? So that lower 8th ground uninterrupted path is the one that gets rid of the last of the afflictive obscurations. And then that liberated path of the 8th ground, you know, is the one that has gotten rid of it.
The lower 8th ground.
Yeah, the lower 8th ground. Okay? So it's going to talk a while about this because this is a really big point. Because at this point, when you've gotten rid of all the afflictive obscurations on the lower part of the 8th ground, you are now equivalent to an arhat. Okay, you're free of cyclic existence because there's no more afflictions, seeds of afflictions, or karma that's going to cause rebirth and samsara. Okay, so it's a big thing. If you really want security, this is the point where you get real security. Okay? So he says here, this is because the statement that when one attains the 8th ground, one is able to abandon in just a short time that which one could not abandon even in 100,000 eons of the 7th ground and below, is suitable to refer to the capacity of one on this ground to abandon in one moment the cycle of 3 small conceptions of true existence, which are objects of abandonment of a path of meditation. What it means is that 7th ground, the uninterrupted lower part of, the lower part of the 8th ground, that uninterrupted path, you're able to eradicate all the 3 small, afflictive obscurations that in all the practice you've done for eons before that, you've never been able to even touch. But when they say one moment, it doesn't mean one moment like this. Moment can mean whatever moment means, a period, of meditation, one meditation session. That's what it probably means here. It's that one meditation session. And you're able to finally overcome what you've never been able to overcome, for such a long time before. Because remember, by that time, you've been collecting merit for 2 countless growth eons. And then you have all the practice you did before you even entered the Bodhisattva path, the Bodhisattva path of accumulation. Okay, so this is a big deal. Yeah? Okay, the reason for this is that there exists on this ground spontaneous deeds pacifying coarse striving and exertion. It is like the way in which the progress of a great ship is difficult until reaching the ocean, but having reached it, it can cross each day what would have taken 100 years to, traverse before reaching it. Okay, so because of this, these spontaneous deeds that pacify coarse striving and exertion, your meditation is so powerful on that lower uninterrupted path of the 8th bhumi that you can get rid of these obstructions. Okay, so then there's a quote from the Sutra on the 10 grounds. So, O children of the conqueror, that means bodhisattvas, it is like this. For example, until it reaches the great ocean, a great ship which goes on the great ocean must be forcibly moved and made to go. So, those of you who came from Seattle, think of the ships kind of going through the locks and, along the rivers, or, you're from Portland, think of the ships going along the
tugboats pushing and...
Yeah, the tugboats, and, and it's so narrow, and you have to get there and drain the water out and then go somewhere else and then put the water back in, and, and it takes a long time and you don't move very far. Okay, so it's like that. Yeah. But as soon as it reaches the great ocean, it's carried by billows of wind. So, you get out of the locks, you get out of Puget Sound, and there you are in the Pacific, and you just take off, okay? It goes without needing to be moved forcibly. It traverses effortlessly that which one could not traverse even in 100 years by means of the previous forcible moving and going. Okay, so you could spend 100 years in the locks, you know, but you're not going to move any distance in that 100 years that you can do in 1 minute when you're out on the Pacific. Okay, so it's like that. O children of the conqueror, similarly, one who has thoroughly accumulated the collection of roots of virtue of a bodhisattva and achieves well the Mahayana, having reached the ocean of the deeds of bodhisattvas by means of a spontaneous exalted wisdom, obtains in one brief period a measure of all-knowing exalted wisdom that he would not have obtained even in 100,000 eons of those previous forcible deeds. Okay, so this is a really good thing to remember now. You know, sometimes we're meditating and we meditate and we meditate and it seems like our practice is going nowhere. You know that feeling? You know, you go to your retreat or your daily practice and you're doing the meditation and, you know, some days better than others, but you feel like you're not really making the kind of practice you can. Okay? Yeah. And then sometime you have a session where you have a moment of insight that's just amazing, that just clarifies things. I'm just talking about an ordinary level here. I'm not talking about realizing emptiness, but just our ordinary experience. You know, you have one session and you go, oh wow, now I get it. Now I feel it. Now, can you go directly to that one session without having done all the sessions in which you felt you weren't making any progress? No. Yeah, it's just like you can't go from, you know, an ordinary being to being an arhat at one moment. You know, you have to do those 2 great eons of collection of merit and meditation and going through all that whole stuff. And then that lower eighth bhumi, uninterrupted path of meditation, boing, there you go. Okay? But you can't do that unless you've done what's come before. So the same thing with our sessions. Yeah. Now, does a bodhisattva on a path of accumulation, path of meditation, path of seeing, you know, the first 7 bhumis, you know, all the time spending 3 countless great eons, 2 countless great eons on that, do they ever say, I'm not getting anywhere in my practice? Yeah, probably not by then. But can you imagine that they're still struggling, aren't they? You know, and it's like, okay, especially before realizing emptiness directly, it's like doing all this practice and all this, and I can't get it in emptiness directly, it's still this, you know, conceptual appearance. Then even you got it directly, I still can't eliminate the afflictive obscurations, another countless great eon, you know. Oh, you know, this is too exhausting. Yeah. So think about it. And there you see, you know, the bodhisattvas, they don't get discouraged in the middle of doing all of this. They don't sit and go, oh, this is just too much. You know, couldn't they have shortened the path? Yeah, I mean, as if Buddha made the path, you know. I'm complaining about the path you made, Buddha. Couldn't you have made it shorter? I really don't want to spend those 2 countless great eons. Yeah? No, I mean, they know they're getting somewhere. They don't sit there and go, oh, I'm not getting anywhere in my practice. My mind's still the same as yesterday. My mind's still the same as last year. It's still the same as it was 1 ordinary eon ago. We're not even talking countless great eons, but 1 ordinary, oh, my mind's still the same, you know, I'm just not getting anywhere. This is, you know, hopeless. Yeah, they don't do that, do they? Yeah. So why do we think we're so privileged? That we can sit there and moan and groan, oh, my meditation, I do the practice exactly the same, I'm so bored with it, I'm not getting anywhere. You know, I meditate, I've meditated on chapter 6 of Shantideva for, 3 years now, and I still get angry. The Bodhisattvas on the lower grounds, they haven't even eliminated the acquired afflictions yet. On path of accumulation, path of preparation, you can still get angry. Yeah? Do they sit there, oh, I still go, I've been, now it's already, nearly one countless great eon. I've been accumulating merit and, meditating on anger, meditating on fortitude with chapter 6, and still I get irritated when, somebody, doesn't sign off on the computer the way they're supposed to, and my practice just isn't working. Yeah, the Dharma isn't working. Yeah? So you see, it's the same thing the whole way through. We have to develop some ability to continue practicing and to not be so hard on ourselves and to see that we are accumulating the causes and we are making progress, and to not have these grandiose expectations of, already in 3 years, I've done an eon and a half worth of work. Okay?
We're so impatient.
Aren't we impatient?
Yeah. Speaking of myself, I'm so impatient.
Yeah.
It's very strange mind, because it doesn't match anything.
No.
It's real.
And that impatience becomes an obstacle. Because then when we don't meet our own expectations, then we say the path doesn't work. Or we say something's wrong with me.
So we discourage ourselves.
So we discourage ourselves.
Yeah.
Then that mind can't learn.
Yeah. And then we can't learn. Because we're so busy saying, this is just, it's not working, that we don't give it a try to work. Mm-hmm.
About that paragraph.
Uh-huh.
Just when they say the collection of the roots of virtue, is that just speaking of the method side there?
I think, yeah. I think so. He's been collecting wisdom during that time too, but usually when they speak of roots of virtue, it's method side. So both of our textbooks on the general meaning and decisive analysis of Chandrakirti's supplement to Nagarjuna's treatise on the middle way said, just that one interrupted path of one who has not previously gone on a fundamental vehicle path. Okay, so this is not somebody who became an arhat first and then entered the Bodhisattva path. Okay, so just that initial arhat and has just attained the 8th ground actually abandons all 3 cycles of the small innate conceptions of true existence and induces the liberated path, which is directly released from these conceptions. Subsequently, the obscurations to omniscience, or the cognitive obscurations, are abandoned, for this uninterrupted path has a greater capacity actually to abandon the object of abandonment than the uninterrupted path of the lower grounds. For example, it is like the statement that in the mantra vehicle, one moment of it should say actual clear light. It says objective here, it should be actual clear light. The 4th stage actually abandons both the acquired and innate conceptions of true existence. Okay? Therefore, Arya Bodhisattvas who have not previously gone on a fundamental vehicle path, simultaneously with achieving the liberated path of the lower part of the 8th ground, manifest a nirvana which is a complete abandonment of the afflictive obscurations and become foe destroyers who are free from desire with respect to the three realms. Okay, so when you get to that liberated path of the lower part of the eighth bhumi, you are now a foe destroyer, an arhat. You are now free from desire or craving. Craving is often, when they talk about the Four Noble Truths, they really cite craving as what keeps us in cyclic existence, because it does, Craving, attachment keeps us there. Okay, so we've abandoned all that ignorance, all that craving, all the other afflictive obscurations, which are the root of cyclic existence. Or not that they're the root, but the root of cyclic existence, which is the two conceptions of self. So the self of person, true existence of person, and the true existence of phenomena, as well as their seeds. Okay, so when you abandon the seeds, then those afflictions can't come back. Okay, in that way, the Sutra on the 10 grounds says, here, just at this time, he passes thoroughly beyond sorrow. So beyond sorrow is a synonym for nirvana. You're beyond the dukkha of cyclic existence. So Chandrakirti's supplement says, because an awareness which is without desire or craving does not abide together with faults, on the eighth ground, those defilements are thoroughly pacified along with their root, the afflictions are extinguished, and one is unsurpassed in the three realms. However, one is unable to attain all the fortunes of Buddhas, limitless like sky. So what Chandrakirti is saying is that when you have that mind which does not abide together with desire and all the other faults, the afflictions and their seeds, on the eighth ground, then all those defilements have been pacified. Their root, that the grasping at true existence or at inherent existence, has also been pacified. And they're unsurpassed in the three samsaric realms. Okay, so nobody who's in samsara, in the desire realm, form realm, or form realms, is greater than an arhat, because all the beings in those three realms are stuck in cyclic existence. Okay, so they're unsurpassed in the three realms. However, they're unable to attain all the fortunes of Buddhas at that moment. Why not? Because they still have the cognitive obscurations. Okay, why do they still have the cognitive obscurations?
Because the wisdom hasn't been able to penetrate the traces that are still there.
Yeah, the wisdom isn't yet strong enough to be able to penetrate, to be able to eliminate them. What makes that wisdom strong enough to do that? Yeah, accumulation of merit and continued reflection on emptiness. Yeah, but you really need the accumulation of merit to do it.
Does the merit do it, or does the merit give you the fortitude?
The merit it's the wisdom that removes it. But how does your wisdom get strong enough? It's through the support of the merit.
The fertility of the mind, in a way, is that?
Yeah, the strength of the mind, the strength of it to do that. Okay, because remember, you're on a bodhisattva path here. Yeah. You're not on the here path where you're just trying to eliminate the obscurations. Mm-hmm. Here, when you're going to the next bhumi, sure, you're eliminating those obscurations, but you're also advancing on the method side of the path too. So clearly, to advance on the method side of the path, you need to keep accumulating merit. Okay? Because each of the bodhisattva paths is associated with a particular far-reaching practice, in which you get very firm grounding on that path. So, that whole path, the whole collection of merit that you do is really important. Okay, so that's why in our daily practice we try and do purification and collection of merit. And that's why, at the times when you feel, sometimes your mind feels like really hard or really dry, yeah, at those times it's especially good to do purification and accumulation of merit. Yeah, because those kind of practices take the dryness out of the mind. They kind of moisten your mind. Yeah, and they change your mind. When you meditate on bodhicitta, it changes your mind, doesn't it? Yeah, even you make offerings to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or you do Vajrasattva, it changes your mind somehow. So, when we're working with our mind, it's not just a thing of, I do one meditation and that one meditation is going to do everything for me. His Holiness says our minds are very complicated, so we need all sorts of different practices and meditations to nourish both the collection of wisdom and collection of merit. Okay? And you can see that's going to be one of the big differences between somebody who's following a fundamental vehicle path and somebody who's following a bodhisattva path. Yeah? Because you don't need to create nearly that amount of merit to liberate just yourself. Yeah? Which is why it's so tempting to go into that path. It's like, 3 countless great eons, shove that aside. Let's just get myself liberated. So it's easy to think like that, which is why our teachers are continually talking to us about the benefits of bodhicitta, the benefits of, really aspiring to enter the bodhisattva path directly, so that we don't waste like a lot of time doing the here or solitary realizer path, only to become an arhat and then have to re-enter the Mahayana path from the very beginning in the path of accumulation. Because they haven't accumulated that merit. They're arhats, but they haven't accumulated the merit of the path of accumulation bodhisattva. So they have to go back there, And then also because of their habit of being blissed out in nirvana, it even takes them longer to go through the bodhisattva path, because they'll go into meditative equipoise on nirvana and just hang out there for a while. Yeah, instead of coming out and doing more accumulation of merit.
I think also one of your teachings, I think it was the mind training like rays of the sun, that you said that they also have this very subtle self-centeredness that's very, very hard to eradicate, because they've spent so much of their time on self-liberation, and it continually shows up and becomes an obstacle. They have to work on it consistently.
Yeah, because they have to, just to get into the Mahayana path of accumulation, they have to do all this meditation to overcome the attraction to their own nirvana. Just to enter that, because what's the defining moment of entering the... Yeah.
What would make them want to do that suddenly? To make that shift?
To make that shift? Well, they say the Buddhas wake them up. Yeah? So I don't know. I guess Buddha just sees that maybe they're ripe at this particular time and says, come on.
So some causes and conditions.
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems it would be very difficult to make that shift.
Yeah, I think it would be. And I think like the arhats that get born in Amitabha's Pure Land, when we talk about those levels of lotuses, sometimes their lotuses don't open for a really long time, because they're in meditative equipoise there. Okay.
Yeah. Can I ask you to refute my doubting, anxious question that's been up this week? Which is, so you have to be way far along before you can ever fall into the lower realms again. I mean, there's a constant possibility up until a certain point.
Up until the heat peak stage of path preparation, then you don't fall in, at that point you don't fall into the lower realms anymore, but you actually receive the security that you don't at the forbearance level of the path of preparation. So yeah, I mean, that's why they say, like in the path of accumulation, if you give up your bodhicitta, it's such heavy karma that usually you go to the lower realms. And that's why when they tell the story of Shariputra giving up his bodhicitta, and because he gave somebody his hand and the guy gave it back, that they say only the Buddha knows why that happened. But I mean, Shariputra was an arhat, so he's not going to go to the lower realms anyway.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But it's sort of the heretical thought about, well, maybe it would be better to get.
Yeah. You see, that's the temptation.
The temptation right there.
There you see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's too scary to even think of going to the lower realms. Let's get myself out of here ASAP, and then I'll think about other sentient beings.
Right. So it's the power of bodhicitta, right on.
Yeah. And the willingness, to train our mind from the beginning of developing bodhicitta, that I'm willing to bear hardship for the benefit of sentient beings. Yeah. So we start training our mind in that from even before, because those early stage bodhisattvas are saying, I may go to the hell realm, but I'm willing to do it in order to stay on the bodhisattva path instead of taking the shortcut, which is actually a long cut.
So that prayer that says, even if I have to go to the fiery hells of Bodhi doesn't necessarily mean voluntarily.
Well, it means both. Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Voluntarily.
Yeah.
There's a question online from a viewer. Are obscurations and obstructions interchangeable?
Yeah. Yeah. The word obstructions and obscurations, they're just translations of the same word. Yeah, which is in Tibetan is drip. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Along that line, are obstructions to omniscience and cognitive obstructions the same thing?
Okay. So obstructions to omniscience and cognitive obscurations, yes, they are the same thing.
Okay, and
Just different translations. And knowledge obscurations.
Omniscience, or you've already gotten rid of the seeds, so they're like the impression of the seed that's remaining.
Okay, the obstructions to omniscience or the cognitive obscurations or the obstructions to objects of knowledge, those are all, just different translations. That means those are the latencies of the afflictions, yeah, plus the subtle dualistic perception that they cause and the obscuration to seeing the two truths simultaneously. So they make an analogy. The afflictions and their seeds are like onions in a pot. You can take the onions out, but there's still a smell. That smell is like the latencies, which are the cognitive obscurations. Okay? So they're the latencies of those afflictions, even though the afflictions are no longer in the mind. And those latencies obscure the mind so that you can't see ultimate truth and conventional truth simultaneously. Only a Buddha can. And instead, you still have the appearance of true existence when you're out of meditative equipoise. And that's why seeing things as like illusions is so important. Okay?
There's the latencies of the afflictions and the dualistic.
Yeah, the dualistic view, that means the view of true existence that they're causing. Okay, so we're going to stop here. Where did we get? Okay, let me just do this next line. And also it says, in that way, all the afflictions are extinguished, and one becomes unsurpassed in the three levels, that is, in the three realms. Okay, so I just wanted to give that line. And so,
The one above
Yeah, we did that one. Here on the 8th ground, there occurs just freedom from desire with respect to the 3 realms, the 3 samsaric realms. Because without separating from desire, achieving nirvana does not occur. Oh yeah, I didn't do that one before. Okay.
In that first paragraph on that page,
Mm-hmm.
they talk about the mantra vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
When they do the paths and grounds in that vehicle, do they go to this kind of detail?
The paths and grounds in the Tantra are a bit different because the way you progress through is different because of the special tantric techniques.
Mm.
Yeah, so they don't talk about it in quite the same way.
Mm.
Yeah. For example, in Tantra, you eliminate all the afflictive obscurations in one go. That actual clear light, when you get that, when you come out, all the afflictive obscurations are gone.
Wow.
Yeah, one shot. And that's because of realizing emptiness with the extremely subtle mind. That's what, you see, that's one of the things that makes Tantra very fast.
Which makes your death so important.
Yeah, because it's a chance to do that. Okay, you knew that we were about to do the mandala offering. Okay. Yeah, she knows. Spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. And may the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Losang's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniryatayami. Due to this merit may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig, may you stay until samsara ends. May the deeds of explaining and practicing the Dharma, done by groups supporting the teachings and their upholders, who spread the view of dependent arising and non-violent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the West, flourish.